United Kingdom's new High Commissioner to the Federation, Lord Allport, visited Lusaka recently and inspected the Northern Rhodesian Police Training School at Lilai. Lord Allport inspected 6 African and 1 European passing out squad and said later that he had seen a first-class parade from a first-class force. Flying on to Blantyre in a Piper Cub, Lord Allport was greeted by Mr. P.W. Jones, OBE, Acting Chief Secretary of the Nysasaland government. Accompanied by the District Commissioner, Lord Allport drove to Zambia to meet Chief W.H.O at his home. And in pursuance of his policy of finding out for himself, the High Commissioner later met members of Chief W.H.O. More news from Zambia. The 2nd Battalion, King's African Rifles, has a record that any army could be proud of. Its first colours were received as Zambia until it was demolished. With the opening of the new St. George's, the colours were once again ceremonially laid up. The Right Reverend Dr. Frank Vourne, Bishop of Nysasaland, conducted the ceremony as one of his last functions before his retirement at Easter. Visitors to Malawi recently will have seen some startling changes to the dam, which was originally built in 1918. The spillways of the dam are being raised 10 feet, which will increase its capacity from 18 to 28,000 acre-feet. The latest methods have been employed involving the use of over 1 million feet of high tensile steel wire, which has been embedded vertically through the structure into the rock bed, carrying a total superimposed load of nearly 20,000 tons. A fine federal engineering feat undertaken in conjunction with French designers. After an aerial view of mighty Kariba by special tourist charters arranged between Central African Airways and the Swedish military authorities, the troops go on for a 2-day visit to Victoria Falls. Every one of the boys had a camera in this group under the command of Leave Leader Lieutenant Hans Carlsberg, even though the weather didn't help them very much. All avid souvenir hunters, they took the usual keen tourist interest in the vast selection of curios which are peculiar to this part of the country. Serve a 7-month stretch in the Congo, and many of them have seen previous service with the United Nations in the Gaza Strip. But despite their tough job, more than 25% of them want to sign on for a further 7 months in the Congo. It's hats off to these soldiers of peace as they take leave and a fresh look at civilization. Let's hope their country's habits are catching. Sweden hasn't been at war for 148 years. Grape growing in the Federation had previously been thought impractical until Mr. R.P. Painter decided to give it a go in 1953. Last year he teamed up with Mr. Antonioni, a viticulturist from Italy, who was also convinced of Rhodesia's wine-growing possibilities. And today they have 4,000 vines with 36 varieties of grape from all over the world. It's a gratifying sight as the wine gushes forth after fermenting in the vat to be transferred to the settling vat, where a month or so is given to allow the sediment to collect before the purifying process. Mr. Burney tests the alcoholic content of the wine, usually about 9%, before bottling. Last year's yield of 80 gallons was found to have a high vitamin and calorific value and to be of the sparkling, heavy-bodied, medium-sweet type with a strong, grapey flavor. With a future of 500 gallons per acre from 500 vines to the acre, it's nice to be able to sit back in your own grounds and sample your own brew. It looks as though it won't be long now before we can all join in and enjoy a glass of true Rhodesian wine. Well, there's one for Mr. Boney, one for Mr. Painter, and one for... Ah, yes, I don't mind if I do. It's so useful to have a second car in the family. But it's one thing having a car, and another having one that goes. What does the lady of the house do when the darn thing won't start and hubby's at the office? Well, let's look under the bonnet. Well, it all seems to be there. What the dickens do we do now? Well, it appears that someone has thought of the answer. Lusaka Junior Chamber of Commerce, following the lead of its opposite number in Johannesburg, has started a car driver's maintenance course. The first class of 12 started in January, but a second one of 31 people are now busy finding out just what it is that makes their car tick, or stop ticking. The girls are as keen as the men, and they learn the theory of combustion engines and just how to trace that annoying fault. In addition to their weekly instruction, Sunday mornings are spent in instructional maintenance on their own cars. They don't seem to mind getting their fingers dirty either. It's probably worth it if one day it enables them to pick up the kids from school on time. There we are, you see. I told you, dirty plugs. Heaven help us poor males. Now we're going to have to put up with backseat mechanics as well. Malaria is one of the world's deadliest diseases, and one of the hardest hit areas in southern Rhodesia was the Shamba district, as its graveyard grimly verifies. In 1898, we realized that the mosquito was the cause of all the trouble, and today, thanks to advances made during the war, it's easier to combat the disease, providing we all cooperate. This team are experimenting on the effects of bites on man and animals. The mosquitoes are sucked up by a rubber pipe and captured alive. Insects are paralyzed by ether and taken to the laboratories, where World Health Organization trained assistants examine and classify the type of mosquito and discover whether it's carrying the blood of the man or the animal. But that's only half the job. Prevention is still better than cure, and so the teams go to work, and by their methods have reduced the infection rate among the African population from 80% to 10% in 3 years. Their major contribution is the spraying of huts with residual insecticide. The African is the main source of infection in southern Rhodesia, as he carries the bug with him unnoticed for up to 2 years. But modern drugs work wonders and are part of the campaign to prevent the disease being transmitted. Laboratory tests have so far shown the effectiveness of this campaign, which has been to the benefit of all races, and the program is being extended to all areas of southern Rhodesia, and neighboring territories are collaborating. So the battle is on, and it's being won.